I believe we should start over from where we did yesterday. We did not succeed yesterday to get into it. Approximately the middle of the second section on page AyinBase 6. The line begins chayut lahachiyos. The principle that we're discussing, the question that we're discussing is how does oir come from etzem? Since atzmus is what's called eine begeder oir, is not even in that realm. The whole principle of affecting something externally is not something which is internal to the etzem. Therefore, how does oir and gili materialize, so to speak, come forth from the etzem? And here he went into a whole comparison and so forth. So he says, in order to understand it, we'll step down a bit and we'll talk about something which is on a lower level, but also of a similar phenomenon, and that is the nefesh. The nefesh is also an atzmi, and it provides chayus and is mislabish in the guf. So he says like this: the nefesh be'etzem mahusay eine bechinas chayus lahachis. In etzem mahus of the nefesh, it is not in that category, and it does not relate to the principle of chayus lahachiyos, of giving chayus to enliven. And then he says even a more extreme statement. It is really completely mushlal, devoid and reject and absent to the achayis. I can't think of the word. Negated from minyan achayis. What is so to speak, so limiting in minyan achayis? In simple terms, a human being is alive, Baruch Hashem, and it is due to this living life element that he is aware of his surrounding, and that he has a surrounding. In other words, he is sensitive to it, he is affected by it, and the very fact that there is a surrounding is something which is significant to him. This is all due to the din of chayus, of sensitivity, to put it in very simple terms. So, by the human being, this sensitivity is extremely, extremely significant and clearly identifiable, because this is what defines the human presence in the world. It doesn't have any other presence. This is his presence, the sensitivity and how he relates to all things around him. The nefesh is what's called etzem. Etzem means that its truth is not dependent on being sensitive to that which is next to him, which is around him. in order to get some handle on this, we have to step back just a bit. We have to remember that the absolute reality is this motzei, which is clearly not dependent on any sensitivity in any surroundings. We have no way to kind of grasp the idea from motzei. This is the thing. This is the level that we can only speak in terms in negative terms. But we understand motzei. There has to be a motzei. There is a motzei, and that is the reality of everything. This is what initiates all existence. All existence represents the fact that there is a motzei, the presence of the motzei. All existence represents a motzei at different levels. There is that which is sensitive, the chayus and all that. The nefesh relates to the motzei at a much higher level than being sensitive to its surroundings. It truly represents the motzei in a true way. Therefore, it is mushla from min hachayis. Was it mushla min hachayis? Since that its reality is the motzei rishain, so then the min hachayis is totally strange to it. This whole concept of it's totally strange. I just want to give it a little bit of a handle on totally strange. The illustration for that, in order for us to understand these terms, this is a seichel term. This is not talking about the reality as it is, but the way we grab it in seichel. There's a person whose concern is, what is he going to have for breakfast? Where is he going to get breakfast from? Another person is concerned, where is he going to get shoes from? All kinds of different levels, so to speak, of concern of getting one's needs. Then you go all the way up, a multimillionaire, a billionaire. He doesn't even know that shoes cost money. That you have to provide for it. So the principle of it, how much is this? I remember seeing it in reading a situation like this. There was a boat yard where they're selling boats, yachts. I visited one time one of these yachts, of these depots. These yachts are not little shifelach. Some of them are ocean liners, private yachts, mamash ocean liners. Huge structures. These are yachts. So the man comes in and looks around the yachts, and he asks, "How much is this?" So the guy says to him, "Sir, if you have to ask how much this is, it's not for you."
You meant the billionaire didn't know actually how much the shoes cost money? You meant the billionaire didn't actually know that shoes cost money, or he didn't know how much they were? I mean, things are not for free, necessarily.
This is not one of his concerns.
Okay.
So the chayut by a person, We know. This is what gives him a sense of reality. The nefesh is mushlim in achayis. It doesn't contribute anything. Ukiyodua, and as is known, the etzem hanefesh l'maylo gam b'chinas yechidah shebenefesh. That the etzem hanefesh is higher even of what's called b'chinas yechidah, the aspect of yechidah. Yechidah shebenefesh we know is the highest level of nefesh that is possible to be present, to be quote unquote experienced. Ukedisa b'medrash Rabbah, as it says in Medrash Rabbah, hey shemus nikru lo, that the neshama, the nefesh, is called by 5 names, and nefesh, ruach, neshama, chay, yechid. The reason that it has 5 names is due to the fact that it actually revealed itself in 5 different levels. These levels, just as we discussed now, nefesh is that which represents the element of chayus, that the nefesh can affect the body, the guf. Ruach, I'm not going to go through all of this, but just the sense. Ruach is the inspiration, is the emotional thing. Emotion and the highest of the guf are worlds apart. Worlds apart. Now let me explain that, since I mentioned it. The highest of the guf is actually a filling in of a lack. The guf without chayis is nothing. It dissipates, falls apart. There's no reality to it. It can't last more than a day. So the chayis is what keeps it being. Emotion is at a much higher level. Again, you need to understand, because the way emotion is interpreted these days is emotion is just a reaction. Emotion is not a reaction. A reactive emotion is on the animal level. The human emotion is, like we say, he loves ahava, real ahava between 2 people. There is no negation, there's no cause for it. There's no cause for it. This is an emotion of the nefesh. And in order to have that emotion, one has to be completely free from all concerns of personal well-being and personal being. Because if it is for personal reason, it's not that emotion. This is called chaya, life per se. Above that there is neshama. Neshama, this is the intellect, which is above the whole thing, above experience altogether. It is looking into the truth per se. Again, in order to have that, you have to be completely free of any personal concerns, of any personal emotions even. And then there is chaya and yechidah, which really represent a pure truth, not only of the neshama, but the pure truth to which it relates. In ahava, for instance, between 2 people, there is something that you love. And you said, yesh mi she'ohev, and then there is somebody, the person that you love. And there is an element of reason. What entices the love? What brings out the love? But yechidah, this is beyond the chaya and yechidah. This is beyond the very this thing. This is beyond the casual discussions. Right? I don't want to go into this right now. The point is that as we're going up, we could see that yechidah, you talk about something which is of essential reality, essential truth, completely devoid of any mitzius. Mitzius automatically requires support. That's what mitzius is. So we get that point. Mitzius, a chair is a mitzius. No matter how well it's built, if it's lacking one leg, it won't stand. Even if it's lacking 1 inch of an egg, it won't stand properly. Chayus is not a mitzius. Chayus has its own reality.
Yechidah.
Also, chayus, like I said, even ruach and neshama, chaya and yechidah is completely beyond anything. Not mitzias, totally. It relates directly to the godly truth, to the motzei ishi. So that's what he says. So, chamisha shemesh nikru lo, never nikru lo, never shluchim shom chayida, hare yechidah. Therefore, we see from there, even though this is yechidah hi bichlal shemesh hanefesh. Yechidah goes into the category of shemesh hanefesh, of the names of the nefesh, which means this is not the esem hanefesh. Shemesh hanefesh means this is how the nefesh is known externally. This is not a personal presence. Like we always say, and it says, a name is extremely important. A name is what gives a person a place in the world. But he does not need a name for himself in order to be. In order to have a place in the world, to be able to be interactive, he needs a name. So yechidah is also one of the names of the nefesh. So let's step back a little bit and discuss the different name, and then we'll be able to focus in on the etzem. Hashem created Adam Orishi. He created Adam first. And then he separated Adam and created Chava. And once there was Adam and Chava, that became a true presence, a wholesome, a complete presence in the world, an independent presence that has a real presence, an eternal presence. That's when Hashem gave him a name. Oh, you are for real, now you have a name. Adam, prior to that, he is what he is. What does a name have to do with anything? There's nothing there to name. So a name is applicable only to something that has a personal reality, some kind of a real permanence, a permanence.
It's a reality as defined by the Creator, as opposed.
No,
trying to understand what
reality.
The difference is between him just being himself and versus him being a reality. No.
What is the difference between Adam by himself and Adam and Mechaber? Adam by himself also, he had all the wisdom and all the understanding, all the knowledge. As a matter of fact, he was so wise, he was able to name all the animals. So what was lacking? His own presence was had a final quality to it.
Finite one.
Final.
Final?
Limited.
Finite.
Finite. He was when he was created. Period. There was nothing real about him that he can go and now create further and develop it further. A real presence means that he actually represents his creator. He gets from his creator not only his presence, but the creativity quality. If you say the Rebbe created a human being, and he enjoys himself, that's as a creature. That's representing the creator. The Russians are notorious for misleading for fake representation, going back all the way to the Tsarist days. This is kind of in their character. You never developed anything real. An airplane clearly was not developed in Russia. There's no question about it, right? Everybody. You can't look what you did. So.
What do you mean by airplane?
Airplane.
What do you mean by?
What's an airplane?
No, he meant remotely. How does that demonstrate your point? I don't understand.
What? You listened to it.
They claim to create the airplane.
They claim to have invented the airplane.
Television, the everything.
They presented their people, look what we did. Be proud of Mother Russia. Everything, absolutely everything. So there was a war, and Tsarist days yet, and this is the time when the automatic weapons have first been coming out. You know, it used to be fighting with swords or with bow and arrow. Then you have guns. Okay, and in the West, the minute you have a gun, they develop it, becomes a cannon, and they were not shy to do this at all. They saw what a cannon looked like, so they built a replica of a cannon, a huge monster. And whenever they had state visits, they would go and take them around and show their military might and show them the cannon. This cannon had no mechanism inside whatsoever. So it really represented an impotent country. So, coming back, a real thing is that which represents its creator to the fullest. That's clear, because reality is the creator.
We got into this because we were saying how Adam got his name.
Okay, wait, I'm coming back. Okay, I went into this. I just want to. One of the primary duties of a teacher and hope for a teacher is that his student will become a teacher too. Will not always be a student. He'll pick up on his learning and then learn on his own and be able to create further and go further. If he's only able to absorb and not to give back, he has not given him the essence of what he's teaching. So, okay, so here is it is, in order to have a name is a real presence. A name is nothing. A name is an intangible thing. So why do you give it a name? So it's a reality on its own right. If you refer to a human being, you know it's real. You don't have to refer to his hands and his feet and so forth. His spirit, his reality. This was so. So Chamisha Shemes Nikru Lo Yechidah is one of the names of the Nefesh, which means that in order that this name applies to an essence, that the essence is of such caliber that it even has a name. And what kind of name? A name of Yechidah. Okay. Just to take this a step further, what does it mean, a name of Yechidah? It means, Yechidah means it is totally devoid of any external effects, of any external needs. It is completely focused on it has the godly reality, which makes Yechidah. The Nefesh is of such caliber that it's such reality that it has even a name of Yechidah. But what is the name? The name of this is the Etzem HaNeshama. The Etzem is above name. The name is only a means of alerting you. Oh, this is a real thing.
The Mauritian without the Chava was below name.
Was below name. It was not a fully created presentation of his creator. Like we said, before the Rebbe created the human being in the world, it's a creation. Wow, what a miracle! Is it worthy of its creator? It's an insult to its creator. No matter the fact that nobody else can duplicate it. But what is its significance? Like we say all the time, you create a car that can only go in circles, running races, without any human value. What is it about? Why would a human being get involved with this? It's an insult. I once saw this analysis. The French are known for their grandeur, for their gaiva. They are approximating the Ruskies. So they are gaiva. So when they wanted to show off what they're able to do, they built a skeleton, the Eiffel Tower. Show what they can do without any use. What is it about? All it is to show what I can do. In contrast to that, they were comparing. In America, they built the Empire State Building. Right? It's a much greater feat than the Eiffel Tower. But it's got thousands of offices. That accommodates millions of people. It pays for itself over and over and over again. That's a human thing, and this is a skeleton of a human being. This is the America of yesteryear. Now.
Most of the tall skyscrapers nowadays, the top part isn't even usable. It's part of the.
Yeah, but all right. So yechidah is bichlal shemus hanefesh. This is the emphasis over here. Yechidah is bichlal shemus hanefesh. He is part of shemus. It goes into the category of shemus hanefesh, which means nefesh itself is sholei b'yarech l'gam. V'neida, it is known. Okay, he goes deeper into this. The yechidah hu inyan. Yechidah is the principle. K'moy hakoyches ha'yulim ho'atzmi ma'aklurim b'nefesh. Yechidah would be a description, a reference to the nefesh, like the koyches ha'yulim ho'atzmi. The initial koyches ha'klurim b'nefesh that are incorporated in the nefesh. V'etzem ha'nefesh mushal gam mizeh. The Esma Nefesh is mushlal, is negated even from this now, but Esma Nefesh does not relate to the koiches. Esma Nefesh knows the truth without knowing, without the koich ha-seichel. I just want to go to a place where he mentioned removed al whom yibkinas hagil l'gam. Thus we see that the nefesh, esem nefesh, is totally separate, totally beyond the whole union of gilul l'gamri altogether. Even the koiches hayulim ho'atzmi, which is not gilul, it is just the only way to refer to it is a potential. In potential, there are two levels, as we once discussed. There is the potential in the possible and in the probable. Probable, this is where you already have identifiable sources. But possible, it's nothing to do with the koiches at all. It has to do with the yetz. And then he says, in parentheses, this is where we skipped yesterday. Gam koiches ho'atzmiyim einu b'chinas hamshoch. The point to explain is this: hamshocha means something that is drawn from its source and coming forth. In truth, koiches ho'atzmiyim are not a hamshoch. Koiches ho'atzmiyim are not distinct from the yetz. And yechidah, this is referring to the koiches ho'atzmiyim.
How do you separate Etzim from the Koyach HaAtzmiyim, which is literally inseparable from the Etzim?
No, I understand. This is what we are struggling right now. The whole discussion here now is Oil Atzmi versus Atzmos. To be continued in this session.
Ayin